we are really leaning into that, where we can put all of that into Gen AI and be able to output a strong recommendation engine. We built our system around the concept that SoulCycle is a routine. You ride once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. And so we purposely built them off of the concepts of 4, 8, 12, 16. The at-home bike was not necessarily, or is not necessarily a full, like an alternative to the in-studio experience, but an enhancement to the in-studio experience. How do we help enhance that experience further? Because we saw that they were paying a subscription for the at-home bike, and there was more likelihood that they would want a subscription for the in-studio experience.
Hey, this is Carlos, CEO of Product School and your host on the Product Podcast. This is a very special episode with Drew Lesicko from our podcast studio in New York. He's the Vice President of Product and Technology at SoulCycle, and he was also a speaker at our ProductCon conference in New York. As a fun fact, he promised me that our next episode that we do with him will be recorded at a SoulCycle studio. SoulCycle was founded in 2006 and requires no introduction. It's a pioneer in boutique fitness and is known for having one of the most passionate customer communities in the world. Drew oversees the full digital journey of the SoulCycle customer and all technology platforms for the company. He launched the SoulCycle at-home bike right at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, which saved the company as all the studios had to shut down for a long period of time. In this episode, we dive into his strategy for blending physical and digital experiences, SoulCycle's adaptation during the pandemic, and the future of connected fitness technology. We'll also explore how they built such a strong customer community. My favorite part is when Drew shares insights on using data and AI to personalize each rider's fitness journey, with innovations like predicting customer behavior years into the future. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Product Podcast, Drew.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Making you work twice because you were a speaker at ProductCon New York.
I love to talk. And so if I can, if it can be productive in any way for anybody else, then that's just a bonus.
It's definitely going to be productive.
Mm-hmm.
So you're the VP of Product and Technology at SoulCycle.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You joined in 2018
Mm-hmm.
before the pandemic.
Before the pandemic. So yeah, I had the pleasure or displeasure of experiencing what it's like to help run a business which is very much based around in-person fitness during a period of time when in-person fitness was not even legal to have. So it's been an incredible journey, but I think that it's actually coming out of it now on the other side of the pandemic, certainly has, I think, made me a better business leader from a strategy standpoint and a better product person in terms of how I look at products, especially in a world where your resources or your business model changes in a whim. Yep.
Guide me through those dark moments first.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we were already, like, 2019 was a banner year at SoulCycle for the most part. We were coming out of just launching our first studios in the UK. So we were just about to launch our 100th studio, and things were great. We had some hiccups, but the business was in continued expansion. We were just about to launch our at-home bike, which we had been building for the last few years. And then March 16th, was a day that we said, you know what, we have to close all the studios. We had looked at, for the week kind of coming up to it, we had looked at some contingency plans. We said we're gonna shut down all the studios, and it's gonna be a couple weeks, but we'll be back open. And so we all went remote, started, kept working, and a lot of focus was on how do we keep connected with our customers when all of our business is based around getting people into the studios. And what we ended up doing was spending a lot of time, in obviously focusing in on getting our at-home bike ready for market so that we had a way to sustain our business during this time. But at the same time, knowing that a lot of the business is based around the in-person experience as well and the community staying together, we focused in a lot on how do we connect with people? How do we make sure that they're not forgetting that SoulCycle is here for them as their, as their community, as their workout of choice, as their health outlet. And so we shifted a lot. We launched a number of different media initiatives during this time. We also built our back-end systems, which is all owned and operated by us internally. We made them significantly more scalable. We were able to take the time to say, hey, we need to figure out how to be able to do more with less. So we made it so that we could easily shift our studios, move bikes around in a more convenient, more adaptable way. Because what happened over the next few months and years was that we were constantly trying to catch up with what the world was throwing at us. And so the first thing was obviously getting the at-home bike out, but then we needed to figure out a way to start filming classes and live streaming classes. And so we built a studio in our office where we were able to bring in just a small amount of people to start filming classes to live stream. We made sure we had other business models. We relaunched our retail site so that we could build it in a more scalable way. And then we started launching outdoor studios so that we could continue to hold classes. And that meant being able to, adapt all of our systems to be able to handle that.
And thank God that you had been building this physical bike for
Yes.
homes
Yeah.
way before the pandemic hit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, luckily, we had always anticipated that at home was going to be an important part of the business, but then also knowing that SoulCycle as an entity was really built around the four walls, which meant that as much as we could scale that business, there's a finite ability to get to everybody. And so knowing that we would have an offering that someone could then purchase if they were not in a city where we were opening or had a studio, Columbus, Ohio, a place like that, where you could still join the SoulCycle community in another way. So, luckily we had that, and that was also a way to sustain the business. But it was there was obviously a lot of headwinds because it was also a time when a lot of people were buying Pelotons. So it was definitely a ramp up period as we launched that. But thank God we had invested in that beforehand.
Yeah, so talk to me about the aftermath, because I can imagine that as the revenue coming from the studios went down,
Yep.
revenue coming from the in-home experience went up, and now that people has options,
yes,
how are you balancing those different revenue streams?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance because what we would see is someone would purchase an at-home bike, and that would mean that they were less committed to come into the studio. And obviously the business model there is different. We still get a subscription, we sell a bike, we have less people coming into the studios. And so what we needed to shift in a lot of different ways, and we needed to look deeply into the data and the behavior of what people were doing, how their workout routines were shifting. And it was a moving target because a lot of times people will come to the studios because they're going to work, and they'll take a SoulCycle class before class or after class. But if they have an at-home bike and they're working from home, they'll just work from home. And then your SoulCycle, like going to the studio, might be more of a Saturday habit. So the frequency would change, but we had to make sure that those journeys were consistent. So that, and what we found was that the at-home bike was not necessarily, or is not necessarily a full, like an alternative to the in-studio experience, but an enhancement to the in-studio experience. We had a lot of riders who ended up coming to the studio and also supplemented it with their at-home bike. And so we needed to, instead of thinking about it from a either or, we had to think about it from an addition. And so we spent a lot of time rethinking what the journey was, rethinking our business models, because we saw that they were paying a subscription for the at-home bike, and there was more likelihood that they would want a subscription for the in-studio experience. So that's why we launched our first subscription platform.
The in-studio used to be more of a one-off payment
Yes,
per class, right?
Exactly.
So tell me more about how you evolved that business model.
Yeah. So, that has always traditionally been the boutique model, is you pay for a class and you attend. And we wanted to go into a subscription model for a number of reasons. One, because it has more consistency. It's a model that customers know, and it's more reliable. But it wasn't something that our customers were used to. And so we actually built the first version of it as a proof of concept. It took us about 4 weeks to do. We built it completely in-house, and we launched it in one region. We launched it in Boston, and we needed to know if our riders would adopt it, if they would like this business model, and if it would be successful, because we needed to give them reasons to do it. And we did a lot of research in terms of what advantages someone would have for having a subscription to SoulCycle. And we thought of everything like free shoes and water, free like book early. But at the end of the day, people just wanted discounts. Price was the number one aspect of it, because we're a premium experience. And so we obviously discounted for the commitment, but we needed to make sure that we weren't cannibalizing ourselves. And so we went into it fairly lightly. We built our system around the concept that SoulCycle is a routine. You ride once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. And so we purposely built them off of the concepts of 4, 8, 12, 16. And we launched it in our one region, and we had initially a slow uptick. But more people started subscribing. Our retention was really high. Their frequency went up. Their LTV went up. And we said, okay, this is pretty powerful for us. And so we launched it in 2 more regions, continued to see the same success. In fact, it continued to grow. And so we said, this is the model we need to move into.
I think that is powerful, because when I hear experimentation or A/B testing, that it's always associated to specific features, not always to pricing. I think testing pricing is risky and scary.
Yes.
So you still were able to apply experimentation to a new pricing model.
Mm-hmm. It can be a scary thing for us to do, because whereas I use this comparison a lot at SoulCycle, where you hop on a plane, the person next to you probably did not pay the same thing that you did. But you never know. You've never sat down to decide once, you're like, so how much did you pay for this flight? Everybody knows how much you paid at SoulCycle. And often if you get a discount, people will tell each other. And so the concept of testing pricing to optimize, to balance that against acquisition is a harrowing thing. And we often do it based around region, because it gives us a little bit more flexibility, but a little bit less risk. But it's vitally important to us, because there is significant risk to the rider experience, to the revenue loss. And I think that it's really important that you do it.
So as we move into, let's say, the next phase, which is now digital experiences, we saw how fitness studios started also offering experiences outside the studio, even outside the home, things that you can do directly with your phone as the VP of product of the mobile app.
Yes.
How do you evolve that product to also cover this new use case?
Yeah, I mean, what we need to do is make sure that everything is additive to what our experience is. One of the delicate balances at SoulCycle is that our rooms are, for lack of a better term, sacred. They're almost technology free. The only things that we have within the studio itself is a laptop for the instructor to play music on, the sound system, and it's pretty much it. Not much else. We don't allow phones in the room. We ask people to dim their Apple Watches or their fitness trackers, but we but we know that the second we have them before they walk in and when they leave, and everything that we do from the digital connection experience is how do we enhance that in some way. And a lot of what we do is thinking about, one, it's making sure that your experience for booking, for finding classes is as frictionless and enjoyable as possible. And so you can find which instructor you want, which classes you want, what music are you going to listen to, making sure that you know what the right prices are going to be, that you can get into your own bike. But then after that, it is about how do we help enhance that experience further, whether it's by giving you data through SoulBeat, where we can provide real-time data in terms of how you are improving on your experience, or helping to empower finding new people within our community and meeting new people. Because we know that if we help you meet someone that is also a rider, then your experience is going to be better. You're going to ride more often. And so a lot of our digital platforms are built around that. And that's not only to the customer facing piece, it's also the tools that we build for our internal staff, the information and data that we provide back to them to help empower their experience for hospitality.
So what role is Gen AI playing in enhancing that digital experience?
Yeah. So there's a few different directions that we're going in right now. One of them is I'll start with the more basic aspect, which is our customer experience and customer service. And what we are hoping to do is there's a lot of kind of more basic experiences and things that our customers need, whether it is I need to extend a class. I'm not going to make it to class on time. I'm going to be 4 minutes late. Can you save my bike? We think that AI will allow us to empower those experiences that will then actually free up our studio staff and our customer service teams to focus in on enhanced hospitality, the ability to make sure that we're focusing in giving the best possible experience, so that the more basic things can be taken care of.
So
in
like
a lighter
bots
way.
that automate processes.
Yes, exactly. And these are just letting us know, and then we can process that. If you need a refund, we can process that fairly simply. And then the more interesting thing, not that that's not interesting, but I think the more unique experience that we're building out right now is that what we know is that there's a lot of unique aspects of every single SoulCycle class. We're built that way. We're not a franchise or McDonald's where the experience is always going to be the same. Your instructor is going to be different. Your class is going to be different. The music that they play is going to be unique. And it's important for us to provide as much data and information back to our riders to make the most informed decision possible. We do that a lot right now in real life with the ability for a rider to go up to an instructor to say, hey, I'm going to be in LA. Can you tell me what instructor I should take? Or, I really love Chapel Roan right now. Can you tell me what instructors are playing Chapel Roan? But we have so much data on the back end in terms of speed of classes, music that they're playing, instructor vibes, type of, like the amenities of the studio. All of these are factors that help make a rider's decision of what class that they should take. And so we are really leaning into that, where we can put all of that into Gen AI and be able to output a strong recommendation engine so that someone can easily say, oh, I want to start taking SoulCycle classes. I'm a new to my fitness journey. I really love Bruce Springsteen and I live in Union Square. And we can say, you know what, you should definitely take Lori Cole's class at NoHo. It's going to be great for you. You're going to love it. And we know on the back end that by providing this data, the retention of those riders will go up by 70, 80%. And we have a retention curve that we understand very well in terms of how many classes we would see someone take before they become officially a SoulCycle rider. And so what we want, our goal there is to be able to provide these tools back to our riders so they can make the best decisions possible.
Got it. So it sounds like really hyper-personalizing the experience based on surfacing insights that are hard to gather otherwise.
Yes.
And it truly personal, in like very unique to what that person needs.
Yes.
And that's ultimately influencing your retention.
100%. And that's just, I think, the tip of the iceberg of what we're going to be able to do. One of the biggest aspects of SoulCycle, and I think that when we talk about digital platforms are the things that we still struggle with, is that hyper-personalized and experience and connection that you were able to have with our instructors, with our studio staff. Unfortunately, fortunately, we're very popular fitness experience. Unfortunately, that means we can't spend all our time connecting with every single rider. It doesn't happen at scale as much as we try. And so AI will give us more of an opportunity to build connection at scale so that, outside of just suggesting which class to take, we can also start saying, okay, where are you on your fitness journey? Cardio is a great experience, a great part of your workout, but let's also get you doing some strength training, and we can start suggesting those things and helping you through that.
Because there's been recommendation algorithms since forever, right? And we have seen the NPS survey, like this is not about, give me from 0 to 10, or like, based on this cardio class, you should take this other one. It's truly like, this is just for you based on all of these data points that you didn't even give me.
Yes. Yeah. It's, and I think you're right. Like, I think that we've watched over the last 10 or 15 years, recommendation engines sort of fail. Not all the time, but a lot of times it's like I think Spotify does a great job, but at the same time, nothing is better than your friend who suggests a new artist to you. And we've always been the same way. It is, no matter what, you can just look at, our site and be like, oh, it's interesting that, Karen plays the Cranberries, and, I like the Cranberries and 90s music. So I'll give that a try. But like, it's never going to be as successful as someone coming up to you and being, oh my God, I know you. I've known you for 40 years. I know everything about you. You should take this class because you're absolutely going to love it. And those are successful because of the vast amount of data that we have and we can process to understanding people. I think with the tools we have with Gen AI right now, it's the first time we can actually start competing with that and actually helping the people to understand, because we have so much data. Now we actually can maybe make a more informed decision than someone else, because I know on the back end that X instructor typically has a 90 beat per minute class, which is going to be very fast. So, if you're not already more on the healthy side and you just want to start, maybe that's not the right class for you. And so we can take in all of these pieces of data to make the best informed decision.
I would love to break down those success metrics, because I can imagine ultimately you want recurring customers that are finding value. But what are some of those leading indicators?
The major aspects that we'd have is we look at a number of different things in terms of how you're acquired. How you come in are, one of the best success metrics that we have in terms of if you're going to be turned into a SoulCycle rider is if you were brought in by a friend. That is the number one. That's why we highly incentivize people referring friends in. If you've chosen a class based off of music, that is that is a huge indicator in terms of if you're going to come back. So if we can guarantee that the music that you listen to is something that you like, you're almost guaranteed to come back for another class. So that's a big aspect of it. If you've been suggested an instructor by a friend, high aspect of retention. We have certain instructors that are better at retaining users, and that is based off of direct connection. Did someone spend time helping you with your bike, setting your bike up? Those all directly lead to retention. That is probably our number one KPI that we look at on a regular basis is total first-time riders and what our retention rate is, because we naturally have an influx of new customers in January. Happens every year. It is fitness. February through December, we have to work at it. That is when you have to go and you have to find ways to get people interested in starting a new fitness journey when not being motivated by the new year and resolutions. And so that's when we work hard in figuring out how you prime the pump, how you bring in new riders, and then once you get in, how do you keep them? That's the number one KPI that we spend a lot of time looking at.
So for those first-time users, is there a particular aha moment at which you would say, I consider that person engaged enough and I know that they are going to continue being a customer?
Ride 5.
Ride 5.
Yeah. So we know that by the time you get through those first 5 rides, you've decided this is what I want. This is the workout for me. And so every aspect of our teams, whether it is our ops team, our field team, us on the product and technology side, is really built around helping someone through those first 5 rides. Even to the point of we keep someone tagged as a we call it our nurture funnel. We keep someone kind of there tagged as that through those first 5 rides, so that we make sure this is a time when we need someone needs a little bit of hand holding. They need to be taken through and certainly one of the things that I've always wanted to do is really focus in on how do we turn 5 to 3. How do we move that up into the funnel? But truthfully, there's some mystery behind the SoulCycle experience. You come in the first time and you're like, well, I didn't quite get everything, but I feel awesome and I want to do this again. But it takes some time to get the vernacular, to understand the whole thing. It took me probably 15 rides when I first started to understand what, the instructor kept saying, we're going to take this one on the left, and be like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what you're saying. On what left? I'm like, the left foot on the downbeat. Oh, that makes more sense. It takes some time.
You were a power user even before you joined company, right?
Yes. Yeah. I started riding in 2017. And I was actually got a free class. And so I went to my local one in Park Slope, and I left the class and I was like, this was amazing. This was great. I would feel so good. And so I went a little bit more. And
next time you're the VP of product.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, there's actually, it's so funny that when I first joined, we went through our full customer journey from the beginning to the end. And we were sort of and then you become a super user, you become a power user, and then you join the company and then you become an employee. Yeah.
That's another interesting flywheel, right?
Yes, exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So what are the risks of being a power user now in a position of making decisions for what to build next?
Yeah, it's something I actually think about a lot, because for me and for so many people at SoulCycle, because the great thing is we have passion. We're super passionate about the product. And there's never any worry about convincing people to dog food the product, because we come in because we love it. And that keeps you around. That helps with retention. It helps with excitement. The risk is you can lose a level of empathy, because when you're using the product all the time, you can think of yourself as the user. And then you go into what I think is often the fallacy of product management, which is, this is what I want. This is what I would want to happen. But then you have to remember, I'm not the user. I'm not, when I build personas of who our user is, that's not who I'm looking at. And that's a number of reasons. I mean, I ride for free. I know every instructor. So I don't have to think about like, who do I want to take? I know that if I'm tired, I can take this instructor, or, if I want this type of music, I can take this instructor. Our riders don't have that luxury. They ride mostly with one instructor as opposed to many instructors. I don't have to pay. I ride for free. It creates a big difference. And frankly, our riders, for me as a leader of product, I'm a male in my 40s. That's not who most of our riders are. Most of them are women. Most of them are in their mid to late 20s, early 30s. And if I'm going to build the best products, I need to lead with empathy, and I need to remember that I'm building products for them, not for me. And that's absolutely true across our organization, is that we have to get into our own heads. We have to put ourselves into our users' heads and make sure that we're building products and doing things that are for them, not for ourselves.
One of the very humbling onboarding tactics that I ask my product team to do is to sign up for the product every once in a while.
Yes. Yeah.
And try to experience that as a newbie.
Yes. It's, you get so close to it, and you often forget what it's like. What's the new, like for us, it's the new rider experience. What happens when I'm signing up? How am I making those decisions? And you get really close to it. And I think it's really hard. I mean, it's the same thing with when we build products and we try to manufacture success, or we look at data and we cherry pick what the data is telling us because we want to be right. We want to be successful. And often that's because we're so close to it. We're so close to what we love our products. But we always have to be realistic.
And you truly have a product that a lot of customers love.
Yes.
And that is hard to truly be factual about.
Yes.
Like, I've used your product in a studio. I've seen people buy merchandising.
Yes.
Like, it's not common. The people usually receive free swag, but in your case, people pay to wear your logo and other experience. So tell me more about that true community, almost like cult-like feeling.
Yes. I mean, all goes hand in hand. It is all about, we're building fans. Like we want to build the people that want to be part of the community, that actually feel like they have a deep connection to what the product is. It's a very different thing than a lot of the products that I've worked on in the past. It's you might working at Huffington Post or TechCrunch, like people feel passionate about this products. They love them, but they don't wear the swag. They don't like,
exactly.
And that is a huge advantage. And it's a little bit of what the magic is, because the feeling you get when you walk into the studio, the connection you build with the instructor, with the rest of you, and then feeling the pride to walk out and say, like, I'm actually also going to wear a SoulCycle sweatshirt out in public because I want people to know that I'm a SoulCycle rider, that I'm part of this community. And it extends to, media, extends to like SoulCycle showing up in TV shows and podcasts and things like that, because it's in the zeitgeist. It's people that people know how passionate that people are about it. It's like sports. It's like, I'm like passionate about the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm a big NFL, like a football fan. And I have to wear it on my sleeve. And that is something that we embrace and cultivate in the experience.
Yeah,
So,
and tell me more about this as a revenue stream. How much
yes.
of this kind of out of the swag, food, or any other
Mhm.
upsell opportunities do you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. We know that for an engaged rider, they will want to continue connecting with the brand. They will, either they want to show off that they're a member, that they ride with us, or they want to wear what our instructors are wearing. And so they connect in a deeper way. Then they want to know, like, what's the music? Like, what music are you listening to? Like, give me an idea of playlists. So that's an extra one. What's your skincare routine? Add on to it. When you build these deep connections, you have more and more opportunities to connect with a customer in different ways. And I think we're always looking at how we can build more deeper connections with them, because they love the product so much and they love the people so much, that we know that we can help be influential in their lives. I mean, it's obviously we're in the age of influencers, and very much our instructors are influencers to our riders, and so we know that we can help them through their health and wellness journey by having the instructor as a guide, to take you through that.
So, as from an org design standpoint, like
Sure.
how are you structuring your team to support
Mm-hmm.
the merch experience, the in-home experience, studio experience, the platform? Like, how do you make it
Yeah.
all happen?
Yeah, so we have disparate pods that kind of focus in on different things, and the delineations can sometimes be hazy, but the goal is to always keep the organization focused on the aspects of the rider journey. So, we have a team which is focused on acquisition, and they own the website, because our website is the front door. We've discovered is that outside of your first ride, every interaction happens in our app. So 95% of all interactions take place in our mobile application, but discovering all on the web. So we have an acquisition team that's focused in on web. We have our retention and frequency team, which is focused specifically on our app experiences, and then any sort of initiative that is based around win back, bringing riders back in that have lapsed, any sort of like long-term retention plans or increase in frequency plans like our challenges and things like that. All of those experiences on the front end happen within that. We have a team that's focused in on utilization of our back-end tools. So we're fairly unique for a fitness company, where all of our booking engine, back-end, CRM solutions, all built in-house and maintained internally. So we focus in on that, and then we have a group that's focused just on our retail product. So, e-commerce is a little bit separate, but we have a team that's focusing on that, but is interweaved into that. And then for me, we have a separate data engineering team that powers all of the back-end solutions. And I also run the IT team. So we have IT, and that includes IT and AV, and they maintain all of the experiences within the studios. And because everything is so interconnected, I think it makes sense. And I think for a brand like SoulCycle, it makes sense to have a product leader to be on top of all of these pieces, because we're such a customer-centric brand. We need to constantly be thinking about the customer journey and experience, and everything we do, whether it is the tablets that we use for the point of sale system, our AV system in the studios, what music we're playing, what solution we're utilizing, or how does our Shopify instance for a retail site flow into our 3PL? All of those have to be taken from a customer-centric mentality. And that's why, I always think about it from what do these platforms and experiences do to enhance our customer experience, and make sure we're always building around that, not necessarily for pure efficiency or cost structure of the platform.
So what is next for SoulCycle as you think about the next generation product?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is moving toward expansion. It is, looking for ways that we can continue to expand our offerings to connect in more ways, specifically whether it's in studio with variations of our classes, or outside of the studio with connecting to people more. And that includes media content in a lot of ways. It includes more products that we will be able to bring to market. And being able to connect with people that in more and more ways that maybe don't have an at-home bike or don't have a studio with them. But I think that a lot of is of where we're going, enhancing our experience right now, and doing more to build our community in more exciting ways.
So the word SoulCycle can also be limiting to the cycling experience.
Sure.
So as you use the word expansion, are you thinking about expanding categories, or is it more about enhancing the current experience?
I mean, we've explored everything, and I think that the cycle of SoulCycle will never be taken away. We'll always, but we've experimented with other class types, and we know that our instructors are multi-tenant and can teach in a lot of different ways, and so we will. We do a lot of experimentation, or looking at other types of classes that we could offer. And so there's elements of that, or connecting with other brands that we could help with maintaining and building holistic health journeys. So there's a lot of places for us to go.
Yeah, and on the health journey, as now this is more top of mind than ever.
Yes.
And there are integrations with other platforms that are tracking health holistically outside the in-studio, in-home experience. How are you thinking of health and your platform as a way to provide that type of data?
Yes. So what we're doing right now is we're looking at a number of different partners and doing integrations to show what the SoulCycle experience, like what it can play in your holistic journey. And that includes everything from showing that you'll sleep better the night after a SoulCycle class, that you are, you're proving to be more healthy. You have more stamina if you're taking classes regularly. We know that it is one data point in a holistic way, but we're doing this integration so that people can be more informed of how the SoulCycle experience can help, not only from a physical standpoint, but from a mindful experience, because we are a very holistic experience. It's very puts a lot of the soul in the mind, body, soul.
Exactly, and I'm into life extension, trying to stay as healthy as possible, and I can totally see implications to if you are actually someone who can prove to stay healthy because you work out. That probably develops better habits when you sleep or when you eat. That can also reduce your insurance cost, or you can
absolutely, and
things.
that's and we've done integrations with partners from an HSA standpoint, because you can use HSA money, FSA money to work out. And the actual workout itself is one piece of the larger puzzle, but we know that if you do work out, you are more mindful. It does help quiet your mind. I mean, I know that when I work out in the morning, it lowers my anxiety. I feel better. And when I don't do it, I feel worse. I feel more tired if I haven't worked out. And that is something that we want to be able to help people understand. Our riders, and I think that the public in general, has more data on this than they've ever had. And they're more informed than they've ever had. And I think it's really important that we look at ways to provide that data back to people in a more informed way.
And that's when you were talking about Gen AI, that's one of the use cases that I see a lot of power in, like simplifying those insights and personalizing it in a way that I can just trust that, and someone in the back end or an algorithm made all the connections. So at the end of the day, I know, okay, this is my benefit.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that all of these platforms and all of the advances that we've made in so many places, whether it is Gen AI, wearable technology, everything is, are important pieces of a larger puzzle, as I mentioned before. And whereas we know that not everything is going to be associated with the SoulCycle experience. Not every technology, that comes out means something for us, but we always look at everything. We always look at every advancement to see what we can use. And this is something that, I learned from my time at Verizon when I was running our innovations lab, because we were focused very much on extension of like media platforms and looking at new technology and saying, okay, does the Apple Watch make sense for us? Does Alexa and voice technology, does it make sense for what we do? And we could easily just say, nope, that's not in our wheelhouse. This is outside. We're not going to do something just for innovation's sake, but this makes sense. And I think for some amount of time, we were like, we said, okay, well, AI is interesting. It's not quite there. It's not going to meet our needs. We're not going to play in that realm. And, over the last 6 months, we just said, okay, now we've figured out the use cases. And we embracing a lot of those things more now.
Drew, it's been a pleasure to have you.
Great. Thank you so much.
It was fun.
Yeah, definitely. Hope I really enjoyed it. Thanks so much.